Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger, and welcome to the Eddy Network podcast. And this is video number 7 in my The Changing of Culture and Leadership series. And one of the things I've been looking at is the question of trust and trustworthiness by leaders. And I want to address that not so much in how the leader is trusted by other people, but more about how the leader trusts him or herself. I think it's one of the most difficult things for us to address because, in many respects, it's something we can only do alone. And we can only do it as the most extreme measure of self-criticism. I think many of us live lives of fear, and that fear is not so much about the danger or of something that's violent, but rather the fear of being shown to be inadequate or to be a fraud or that we cannot live up to the expectations that people have for us or that we have for ourselves. I think there's a lot of material out there that addresses this, but at the end of the day, you get up in the morning and you have to address yourself. You have to look at yourself and say, who am I? Am I the person I want to be? And am I the person who can command the respect and the trust of other people? And if we're unsure of that, then we wander off into other things which are intended to distract people. It reminds me of, you know, the Wizard of Oz. I was driving home from a long trip recently. I had about 6 hours in the car, and I have an audio recording of the movie, and I was listening to that, and it struck me that the three companions of Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, are all persons who are afraid. They recognize that they, shall we say, are incomplete. And they get to the Emerald City and they come face to face with this presence on a screen, smoke and fire and whatnot, who is the Wizard of Oz. And then Toto the dog runs over and pulls the curtain back, and we see it's just a man. And it was the man that Dorothy had met right before the tornado, who was a carnival showman. Very true. He too is afraid that he is not going to be seen as the wizard. And I think many of us feel afraid that we are not going to be seen as successful or worthy of others' respect. I thought a lot about this a lot. Back in December, I watched this samurai trilogy. Let's see if I can get that right, which is the story of Musashi Miyamoto, samurai, and it's three different films, and he goes through a tremendous amount of inner conflict and turmoil, and I think it's instructive for us. And what I see there is that as much as he has to respond to the people and the context in which he is operating, at the end of the day, he is responsible in particular to himself. What I have identified over my lifetime is that a large number of the people who you and I would call leaders because they have found themselves in the role of leader and they have a title that is equivalent to what a leader's title would be. And we grant them a lot of latitude because they are recognized recognized as a leader. But the problem is that in many respects they are not because there is something missing in their own personality and their own discipline as a person, which makes it difficult for them to do the kinds of things I've been talking about that leaders do. I think the most difficult thing for a person who has risen to the top of an organization, who is now at the top of the hierarchy to do, is not admit when they're wrong. It's not that. It's to admit that they're no different than the person at the lowest echelon of the company, that we're all the same in effect. We're all the same except we have different responsibilities. But at the end of the day, we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and we have to decide, do I believe in this person? Can I accept this person that I'm looking at with all his or her fears and failures and sense of inadequacy? Can I look that person in the eye and say, it's okay? And I don't think as many people as we know actually can say that. In fact, I think many of the people who have kind of risen to that level and have not stayed there long do not stay there long because they realize that this is not a, a healthy place for them. They realize that they are now isolated from many of the people that they once were close to. They may have authority over these people, and that everyone is looking to this person, to the person that is looking in the mirror or looking at the person in the mirror and recognizing that people believe that this person can do magic, that they have something that they can do to thwart whatever threat to the company that is there. And the person looking at the person in the mirror realizes that it's not true and that they're just a person, just a human being, and that there are many people within their organization or within their circle of friends who could do that job and do it much better, except they choose not to allow themselves to move into that kind of position because they don't want to have to address the challenges of personal identity and personal self-worth. I think that trust is a very difficult thing. It is it is very difficult to build and to create, and it is very easy to destroy. And if you cannot trust yourself. And I'm not saying believe in yourself, in some kind of, punching your chest and say, I can't do anything. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I can trust that I will do my very best, and I can't admit when I cannot. That's where trust becomes really evident to people when they see that the person who they have endowed with all this trust will be willing to say, I can do a lot of things, but this is something I can't do, and I need help. And so the leader of an organization who builds a team who can talk to him or her and talk to him or her in a very honest, respectful, trusting way, where the leader recognizes that, okay, everything stops with me, but I don't have to be the one who ultimately must do all the work to make the decision. I can listen to my people. I can go talk to people that I build relationships with whom I can trust. I've been operating for 30 years as an independent consultant. And for a few of those years, I had a virtual assistant. It's three different virtual assistants, and they were very helpful to me. And they became my confidants in many ways. I could talk to them because I needed to hear their reflection, their feedback when I said, I think I need to do this. And I said, and I would say, what do you think? And regardless of what their background was, they had something to say, a perspective to offer, which was helpful to me. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying that you should treat a changing culture of leadership as a place of not just ascending to a position of somehow a final position of authority and success. I think you should see that as another step along a path of your own development as a person, and that you recognize and you seek to understand where your inadequacies are. Because if you can't identify what you're inadequate at, then you will feel the need to project confidence and superiority in those areas where you lack it. And the troubling thing about that is that people see that. None of us live in hiding. We want to believe that we can do that, but we really don't. People see our vulnerabilities. People know that we have problems. People know that we have doubts. People know that we may have behaviors which are unhealthy. People know that. Not everybody knows that, but there are people that know us well enough, and they are people that we should develop an honest and caring and trustworthy relationship with. They should be people that we know that at an important juncture, an important moment of transition where a decision must be made, that we can turn to them and ask them, what do you think? The greater capacity for us to do that, the greater respect and trust we will garner from our people, because they will see us changing And they will see us at one level becoming calmer and more self-assured, but not in a boisterous or braggadocious way. This is what I hope for you who are leaders of organizations. I hope that it is a place for your own development, and that your own development is not a detriment to the company or the organization, but that it allows you to become a better leader. And where maybe you would be there for 2 or 3 years, you'll find that you can spend a long time there because as you grow into the role and you grow into being the man or the woman in that role, you'll discover that the company will be growing with you and it can go into new places that it could not go as long as you were remaining the person that you were. This is one of the changes in the culture of leadership that I don't think has gotten much, has not gotten the right kind of attention. Because the attention that I see given to this is one of learning techniques and learning ideas. And I don't think that's what this is. I think it's a much deeper process of developing our own inner life. I mean, that's what this series was about. You know, he's going through a life of change, and he's learning to be the person that all the complexity of his life dictate that he become. It's really a great series. I recommend it. And there are many stories like this out there, and it could well be that your story one day might be one of these. It's not as simple as it's a story of overcoming. It's not as simple as a story of emergence. It's not as simple a story as learning new skills. It's deeper than that. It's becoming a person of authenticity that people recognize, and that the people who are your greatest detractors begin to recognize. And they realize that they see you changing. And by that, they see a deeper strength coming out that gets applied through the work that you do with people in the company or the organization. How do we define this? I think that we define it by learning to be trustworthy of ourselves, learning to be humble, learning to recognize that we don't know everything, learning to recognize that the whole weight of the organization does not rest on our shoulders alone, and learning to understand how our ego functions and how it gets fed by or destroyed by various things that take place in the course of being the leader of a group of people. Now, if you find a way to grow, to become a better man, to become a better woman, to become a better leader, then you've learned something which is greater than what you can ever hope to accomplish with your organization. Because you will be able to communicate this to others, and they will see what you have done, and they say to you, "What did you do? How did you do this?" And you will have a story to tell, and maybe you will have a second career where you are helping others discover who they truly are as the person on the stage in responsibility, and that's what there is there for them to do. So if you would like to have conversation about this, a confidential conversation, if you would like to be able to talk about this without there being any consequence to that other than your own growth, I'd be glad to talk with you. And no one has to know except you and me. And what I would say to you is your kindness to yourself will be your greatest gift to your company, so that you will not feel that you must be everything to everyone, and you will not feel that you have to have an answer for everything that comes along. But when you're capable of being kind to yourself and be able to trust yourself, then you will be able to do the same with the people that you lead. And there's no greater platform for the success of an organization or for a group to be able to say that we're kind to one another and we trust one another. And if that's the impact of your leadership, then you have found yourself in a position of rarity in the world of leadership today. And I wish that for you. So I thank you for watching the Eddy Network podcast. Thank you for watching these videos. I hope that they have been helpful to you. I I just felt that there was a need to address what I saw as the changing culture of leadership in the world today. And it's not that I haven't seen any of this. I think all of this has been ongoing, but I think what I see is that there is an emergent awareness of this now, and it's just happened in the last few months. And so if you're seeing some of the things that I'm talking about, um, let's talk about it. Because I think if you can describe what you see and put it into your own words, then you can do that with other people that really need to hear you describe, this is what I see as the changes we are being faced with. And I think this is how we can come together in conversation to describe where we want to go because of these changes that are taking place. There'll be a post tomorrow about trust, and it'll be a reworking of something I wrote 3 years ago, 4 years ago almost. And I hope it will be beneficial to you because I think it addresses the very things I'm trying to say to you tonight. And I'm grateful for your support, grateful for your attention. If you can financially support me, I appreciate that very much. And we'll see you next time here on the Eddy Network podcast. Bye bye.